possibly why, and maybe you've seen this in young men, they seem like they're stronger than compared to when we get older.
You're naturally going to be stronger when in between 20 and 30.
And recovery as a younger person.
When I was 30, 31, that was my peak of, like, I had no injuries, I had no problems, peak of strength. And like, you got to observe, I think that's about. But I saw him incline pressing 160-pound dumbbells, got them up on his own, did 10 reps and put them down. It didn't look very difficult. And I was like, fuck, I'd find that quite hard, you know? Yeah. And I'm bigger, so.
I agree. Have you been following any of the new potential breakthroughs? This was going back to the early noughties, myostatin inhibitors. I'm not talking about the supplements, but real medical.
I wasn't even aware of them. I mean, I only learned about myostatin in the last decade, I suppose, you know. And apparently Flex Wheeler's has a deficiency, which would explain. I'm like, how does it do that? But, you know, a few times I was at Gold's Gym watching Flex and the other guys train, I'm thinking, they're just piss-assing about, yeah? They may have been, but another time I saw him and he was training really heavy, so he could if he wanted to, you know? I saw Flex Wheeler with his little joints and all that, yeah? Don't look strong, but I saw him incline pressing 160-pound dumbbells, got them up on his own, did 10 reps and put them down. It didn't look very difficult. And I was like, fuck, I'd find that quite hard, you know? Yeah. And I'm bigger, so, you know, he'd put the work in, but probably not always. You know, I was always.
Well, that's interesting. On the studies they did for people who had like muscular dystrophies, they would find they increased lean muscle mass by giving a myostatin, like it inhibit myostatin, either through antibodies or like siRNAs, which is different mRNA, other techniques to say, hey, gene, don't make this, or hey, we're going to block the myostatin. There's many different techniques of blocking myostatin. And what they found was they all did increase lean muscle mass, decrease body fat, but they weren't able to walk out of that chair. And so it makes you wonder if it has to be with the muscle neuron connection.
So the muscles were bigger, but they were not functional?
They weren't functional enough to fix that dystrophy. So I guess I'm wondering, is this possibly why, and maybe you've seen this in young men, they seem like they're stronger than compared to when we get older. They seem like they've got more lifting capacity. Or do I have just really dodgy joints? I can't work it out, because I've seen this before. Some kid 19, yeah. He's lifting, you know, and I think I'm well trained, but he's just easily lifting half the stack. And I'm doing it, but it's making it more difficult to keep up. And I'm thinking, is this
naturally going to be stronger when in between 20 and 30?
Because of the neurons as well, firing like the higher levels of dopamine potentially.
Your guess is as good as mine, mate. But my observation is peak like strength and stuff.
And recovery as a younger person.
30
is your peak.
For me, that's like when I was 30, 31. That was my peak of like. I had no injuries, I had no problems, peak of strength. And like, you got to observe, I think that's about, for a strength athlete, that's probably around your peak years, early 30s, because it takes time to get there, right? So if you started training in the late teens or something like that, it's probably take you 10 years to like get somewhere near your maximum potential, which actually is like, I started training properly in 83, and I won my second Mr. Olympia, which is arguably, could have been my peak. At 90, so that's exactly 10 years from when I started to like, I feel like that was near my maximum, you know. I was getting, there was not much more room to move there. So the thing is with the myostatin blockers is like, it might be some medical conditions where it's useful, but for a bodybuilder, like, haven't we reached the reasonable limits of it looking even like attractive, like at some point?
Will they abuse it? And I think that's they'll be out in a couple of years, and I'll tell you why. Because when they failed the muscular dystrophy trials, they said, well, how can we repurpose that? And with the rise of Wegovy and Mounjaro, the weight loss medications, they're finding some atrophy, some loss of muscle mass potential. And that might just go hand in hand. I've spoken to other doctors. That might go hand in hand with just losing weight. You lose a bit of muscle. So if they can add this to the Wegovy or the Mounjaro, then you can maintain muscle mass, which we say is important as we age, without being muscle mass monsters. I think we tend to think of the Belgian blue breed cattle or those whippet dogs that are doubly muscles or Flex Wheeler, without quite being that way, that to help us. I think as we age, it might be worth it. I mean, it was shown to be.
Well, people are inherently lazy. If there's a pill they can take this.
I think going back to exercising and doing myostatin.
Here's my question about was it Ozempic?
Ozempic, yeah.
Ozempic, yeah. You're losing weight, you're losing fat, they're losing some muscle mass as well. Yeah, what if that person that's taking the medication is also training? Are they not losing muscle mass? Is that preventing them from losing muscle mass while they're using the Ozempic?
So some of the doctors I've spoken to that prescribe this, and we also prescribe at our clinic, recommend adding protein. And if you exercise, and I've heard of some bodybuilders now using the Ozempic, the Wegovy, those are the same things, or Mounjaro, slightly different, and they're not losing muscle mass, they're actually getting good fat gain. So I think that it's misguided for the media to just blame and say it's muscle loss. Because I think it would be...
If you're in a negative calorie diet, you're potentially going to lose some muscle anyway. So if you're in a negative calorie balance and you had enough protein and you lifted weights, you probably minimized.
You're on testosterone as well. So some of our patients are on testosterone and they're on the GLP-1 and, the Wegovys, etc. You can minimize it. So it'll be an interesting space. I'm going to watch the space in the next couple of years. There'll be some new developments. And the reason why I think so, because if you've got 3 or 4 or 5 companies working towards this, this has been the holy grail since the early noughties when it was discovered.
A woman a few years ago when these type of drugs first came out, and she was asking my advice, and I'm like, I can't advise you because I don't really know about it, but I advised on what I could, and she definitely put on muscle mass and got stronger while she was losing body fat.
I think especially the British media, there's all the poppies grow at the same height, and they love to catch people out, right? And they say, see, these people are just trying to get an edge because they're using these Wegovy drugs, or they're using these Ozempics, and in reality, what they're forgetting is some new study shows it actually has anti-inflammatory and cardioprotective effects beyond just the weight loss. So those effects start before you start losing weight.
It's been an honor to have Dorian Yates on our program today and delve into the extraordinary story and invaluable insights. To our viewers, take these lessons to heart and remember to subscribe, like, and comment on your favorite takeaways. And stay strong, stay balanced, and we'll catch you next time on Balance My Hormones.